It's a terrible scene. They think it was caused by, at this moment they don't know, but they think it was caused by renovation. And I hope that's the reason, renovation.
All right, let's take a look at live pictures right now that are coming to us from Paris. This is the centuries-old Notre Dame Cathedral, still burning at this hour. The fire started around 6:50 p.m. Paris time, quickly engulfed the historical cathedral. And viewers all over the world have just gasped in horror as the spire collapsed onto the altar. We can show you that too. Look, just unbelievable. Officials are currently investigating this as an accident. But still tonight, horror and disbelief at what was lost during the fire. Joining me right now is historian Doug Wead, who actually, I didn't know this about you, Doug, but I learned today you've traveled to Paris every year since 1974, and you've done many a tour through that cathedral. Tell us a little bit about it, about how special it is, what it symbolizes for Catholicism, and why you go to Paris every year.
Well, I would be invited as a historian to Bercy, which is the largest auditorium in Paris, and give lectures and speeches there about history. But I'd always bring my children, my grandchildren. My wife is French. We'd visit Notre Dame, and I especially would show them that arch as you go in the opening door, because it took 100 years to build. That arch was key, and they would tell us that the craftsmen who did that work no longer exist, that craft does not exist, and those craftsmen would spend their whole life, teach their son, who would teach their son, so 3 generations. It took 100 years just to build that arch. I want my kids to see that.
Incredible.
It's a truly remarkable
Structure, truly remarkable work of art, of architecture, and to think that that is gone. You know, people are grieving for a loss of history, I suppose, there tonight. Pretty remarkable. Of course, they're investigating this. The expectation is that this is somehow tied, as you heard the president say, to a renovation that went bad. But when you think of even the art inside the church itself, Doug, what is it that we as a society are losing?
Oh yeah, it's terrible. I watched today and was heartbroken. The scene, either the picture was shown from the left bank or it was shown from the East Bridge, which is right by Tour d'Argent. To give you an idea of the history, Tour d'Argent, the restaurant was one of the oldest restaurants in the world. You still can go there. You need about a 3-month appointment before you can get in. But it's the Tower of Silver, that's where they invented silverware overlooking Notre Dame Cathedral. They told Henry II there's a restaurant in Paris where they've minted this silverware, you can eat with it. He said, what's wrong with your fingers? They said, well, now you won't have to get your fingers dirty because you can wash the silverware. He said, well, you can wash your fingers. But the next time you sit down to eat, remember, this is part of the heritage that comes to us from France. We're well aware of our Anglo heritage, but the French heritage, the Ile de la Cite, is this little island that Notre Dame is on, and the Seine River splits on either side of it. On the left bank were the leftists, on the right bank was the Louvre, the palace, and the right-wingers. That's where that political term comes from,
really?
Left and right. Yes.
How about that?
Ho Chi Minh lived in Paris. Karl Marx lived in Paris. And of course, they lived on the left bank, the leftist and the rightist.
Wow. Well, it's so sad to see that. I mean, you've spent all that time there every year since 1974. I can remember when I was a teenager and I was overseas and got the chance to spend a couple days in Paris, and one of the first things I did was go to see that cathedral. So it's definitely a big loss.
I never imagined I'd outlive Notre Dame at all. And I heard something very poignant from Neil Cavuto today as I was watching television. He said, we have the moment. We only really have the moment. And that struck me, to think that we could lose this. I know we'll rebuild it, But this was the place where the Emperor Napoleon took the crown off the pillow rather than the Pope and put it on his own head and crowned himself the Emperor of France. And we're losing that history.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts, as always, Doug Wead. Coming up, everyone.
Thank you, Trish.
Actress Lori Loughlin and her husband reject